you so much for your time. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone from every part of the world where you're representing. Welcome to the 2023 Nigerian Data Protection Regulation and GDPR Celebration Day that we are having at ISOC Nigeria. My name is Caleb Ogundele, and I am one of your hosts today with my other team members who are also in attendance. I'd like to just quickly share what today is all about with everyone. Basically, data protection is an important part of the internet today that we cannot joke around with, and it happens to be one of the important tenets that it's one of the trending topics today that we need to be conscious of our privacy both offline and our privacy both online. And so that's one of the reasons why we at ISOC take this as a very important thing that we need to engage with our members on, and to also put this on record that we are doing this to sensitize our members to even understand what data protection is, because we believe that an average Nigerian does not even know what it is. So one of the expectations, just to set the tone today, is for us to break down, for our panelists to help us make sense and understand what the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation is all about, the NDPR, as well as the GDPR. I'm also aware that for our panelists, I'm also aware that we have one of our friends from Ghana, which for me is shows one of the collaborations that we are having. His name is Emmanuel K. Gadasu. We have Chiderah Ike Okonkwo, Mojirayo Ogunlana-Nkanga, right? Please, I don't want to bite my tongue. And one person that I respect so much also is also in the house, Olumide Babalola, is one of the faculty members of the Nigerian School on Internet Governance, who has been sharing some of his experience with us. So like I said, we would like to see our members know that these issues exist and how they can participate and how they can do things actively. So on that note, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to 2023 NDPR and NDPR Day, or GDPR Day, or whichever one we just like to put it. Happy celebration to everyone. And let's continue to guard our privacy, both online and offline, jealously. Thank you very much. Over to you. I guess the agenda is here. Over to the next person. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And just in case we have someone from outside our timeline, Mr. President has done the opening, and we have the agenda, spelled out there. It's a fireside chat, one of those side chats where you get important information about a particular or specific fields or sectors that you need to pay attention to. It is one of the mandates of the Internet Society. And so I presume we all have, or we all can see the slide. And after that, I think we should go to the next slide. Mr. President, you're controlling the slide, so please, next slide, please. Okay, so we are fortunate enough to have our panelists in the house. A full introduction of the following panelists will be done by the moderator for this fireside chat. There are no other person. I think, if I'm not wrong, the president has also mentioned their name: Chiderah Ike Okonkwo, Mojirayo Ogunlana-Nkanga, Emmanuel K, Gadasu, and Olumide Babalola. Next slide, please. Okay, so I think this part is taken care of. President has introduced himself with a speech, but then I will be reading out the script for today that you need for some of our members to have a quick introduction about. That privacy is a fundamental human right, and that underpins freedom of association, thought, and expression. Data privacy generally means the ability of a person to decide for themselves when, how, and to what extent personal information about them is shared with or communicated to others. And of course, in an official press release dated 4th of February 2022, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the establishment of the Nigerian Data Protection Bureau, the NDPB. The Internet Society supports and promotes the development of the Internet as a global technical infrastructure, a resource to enrich people's lives, and a force for good in society. Our work aligns with our goals for the Internet to be open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy. On that note, I want to introduce to you an experienced Internet governance expert, product of the business continuity management. Okay, sorry, I'll take that again. He's a certified business continuity management lead auditor. He's also a quality management system and a certified Prince 2 practitioner. He has won many awards and laurels as one of the best Nigerian engineers when it comes to testing. And he is currently a senior member of the IEE, United States of America. I would like to bring upon the podium to introduce and marshal the discussion for the fireside chat, our moderator and our Honorable Vice President, Engineer Kunle James Olorundare. Engineer Kunle Olorundare James, over to you, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Secretary, Mr. Akimbo. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate the President too. I listened to the President with rapt attention, and I was excited that he was able to, tell us why we are gathered this afternoon. And of course, having listened to you, I know that it is time for us to set the ball rolling. But before we do that, I will quickly want to go through the name of our speakers, and I'm sure that all of them are available on this call. And that makes me to be so excited about this, our fire chat, meeting this afternoon. So the first person is Chiderah Ike Okonkwo. Chiderah Ike Okonkwo has a master's degree in compliance from the University de Fribourg. She is a graduate of the Nigerian Law School, where she graduated in flying colors among her ranks. I beg your pardon. Chiderah has an interesting career that spans from the private sector to the public sector over the past decade. She started her career as a legal practitioner and has over 7 years of experience in legal practices. She's currently with the NDPB as the head of innovation. We are excited, and I think we are lucky to have you this afternoon. So please, can you just say a word to the house? Chiderah. Hello? Okay, I cannot hear Chiderah's voice from my side. Well, I'm not too sure if that problem is an isolated problem, as in maybe it has to do with my own system. But please, if you can hear Chiderah, please just let me know before I move on to the next person.
Honorable Vice President, I've double checked. It's not on the list at the moment, so we can proceed.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Secretary. Yes, so we move on to the next person. That is our own legal luminary, and she's also, one of our co-chairs in our working groups, and that's no other person than Mojirayo Ogunlana-Nkanga. Let me quickly read a citation. Mojirayo is a legal practitioner and the principal partner for MON Legal, a law firm based in Abuja, and the founder of Digi Civic Initiative, registered as advocate for the promotion of digital rights and civic interaction initiative. She's the legal expert on digital rights, particularly on freedom of expression, association, and assembly. She's a solicitor and attorney in good standing with more than 11 years of experience in active legal practice, human rights, gender equality, press freedom, and media rights advocacy. And I think we are lucky to have you this afternoon. Mojirayo, please say a word to the House.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kunle.
Thank you very much.
I am grateful to be here, especially now that my boss is online, Mr. Olumide Babalola. So I'm particularly excited, really. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. We're happy to have you on this call. Okay, so without wasting time, I move on to the next panelist, and that's no other person than Mr. Emmanuel K. Gadasu. Thank you very much, Mr. Gadasu. We're happy to have you, and let me quickly go through his citation. Emmanuel is a professional data protection and privacy supervisor, information and cybersecurity expert, and application architect and developer who has been involved in privacy and security awareness training, multiple penetration testing and security assessment, application design, and privacy advocate. His main expertise include data privacy. Sorry, I take that again. His main expertise include data privacy implementation, information security, and data management, exploiting web applications, evading firewalls, breaking mobile security, exploit research, and many more. As a matter of fact, I'm beginning to see that it's going to be a wonderful afternoon, and I'm excited that we are having Mr. Emmanuel Gadasu on this call. Mr. Gadasu, could you say a word to the House, please?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm so excited to be here, and not just anywhere, to be part of Nigerian, ISOC Data Privacy Day. Nigeria and Ghana, we are brothers and sisters, and anything happening in Nigeria would equally be happening to Ghana. So I'm so excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Absolutely, Mr. Gadasu. We are brothers, and as a matter of fact, we are happy to have you this afternoon. All right, so I go to the last person, but not the least. In fact, I would say one of the biggest masquerade. He's a legal luminary, and that's no other person than Mr. Olumide Babalola. Let me quickly go through his citation. Please permit me to do that. Olumide Babalola is a consummate digital rights, privacy, and data protection lawyer in Nigeria. He holds LLM in international commercial law with ICT and commerce from University of Reading, United Kingdom, and currently a PhD candidate at the University of Portsmouth, UK. His expansive work around data protection has seen him publish the first set of Nigerian textbooks on data protection in 2020 and 2021. Casebook on data protection, and editorial compilation of 144 decisions. I'm sure you can hear what I'm reading. 144 decisions of the European Court on the subject and privacy, and I guess that should be on the subject of privacy and data protection in Nigeria. So please permit me to correct that typo. A peer-reviewed monograph on the subject. Olumide is the managing partner of Olumide Babalola LP and a member of the International Association of Privacy Professionals, International Network of Privacy Law Practitioners, and Privacy Law Scholar Network. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Mr. Olumide Babalola. Could you say what to the House, please?
Sorry, first of all, this place is noisy. I'm sorry, but thank you very much for the invitation. I'm honored to be amongst my colleagues and my organs them to speak on this very important topic. Please don't mind Moji. Moji is my colleague. I am not a boss, I beg. It's when they want to set you up that they'll be calling you that kind of name, please. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olumide Babalola. All right. So before we start, I still want to find out if we have Chiderah Ike Okonkwo on this call. If she's around, I think this may be a very good opportunity for us to introduce her. Is she on this call now, or can we move on for now while we wait for her?
I'm double checking, and she is not.
Not yet, okay. All right, thank you very much, Honorable Secretary. We appreciate your support. So without wasting time, I think we're going to start. And please let me quickly apologize for this. You may be hearing some background noise from my side. So please just bear with me. I'm not in a very comfortable location, but we believe that this is a very great cause and is the right thing to do. And we believe that what is worth doing at all is worth doing well. So please just bear with me while I try to do justice to the work that has been given to me by the Executive Council of Internet Society Nigerian chapter. All right. So I'm going to start with Mrs. Nkanga. So please, from your own perspective, what is data privacy? From your own perspective, we want to hear you. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, did I hear you right? You said from my own perspective. What is data privacy?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, I think usually the way I would start, I would start with generally what is privacy, and I think that term would not have had any recognition or any understanding if we didn't have a legislation, or should I say an instrument that went ahead to define privacy, or should I say to define the right itself to privacy. So as you all know, if you look at the Nigerian Constitution, I can't say as we all know. If you look at the Nigerian Constitution, there's a part which is called the Chapter 4, which basically consists of the fundamental rights of Nigerians. And if you look at that Chapter 4, you would notice that the provisions that were listed there were basically adopted from the an international instrument. And in this instance, I'm talking about the International Convent on Civil and Political Rights. And that particular document expatiated, or should I say defined, what's privacy, or what, how would I put it? Should I say define privacy, or it says that everybody has this right to privacy, that you cannot have anyone unlawfully or arbitrarily interfere with your privacy, or your family, or your home, or your correspondence. And so Nigeria followed suit when it had, created this Section 37 in the Constitution, which says the privacy of citizens, their homes, correspondence, telephone conversations, and telegraphic communication is hereby guaranteed. So in that particular definition, I will now, be able to say that whatever I do in my private space, it's especially when it comes to my home. Let's say, for instance, my correspondence. Now it becomes a data. Now, my telephone conversation, it's a data. My telegraphic communication also is a data in itself. So it means that I have this, how do I put it, this data, these personal things that are between myself, maybe and my home, or with private individuals. So it means that they are private to me. And when you look at those, it's not like that would be the completion of what it is. My person itself, my face, my eye, my nose, my eye color. If you're talking about my thumb, I noticed that our fingers, when you look at them, they have different imprints when you put them on paper. So, and it's specific to individuals. And so this thumb, if I pick this thumb and use a print, like a color, and put it on paper, it means that I don't expect any other person in the world to have that particular print. So that also is my own personal data. And so my name is also my personal data as it is. I don't think there is anyone in the world who bears Ogunlana-Nkanga. And so it is identifiable to me. It is specific to me. And my, and then there's of course the part that we have national identities and we have passports. My passport carries a particular name, which identifies me, separate from my husband, separate from my own child. And so this thing in combination, like plus vehicle, okay, for instance, vehicular licenses and all that, all these things are data. And so they are private to me. They are specific to me as Mojirayo. And so for me, data privacy basically is saying that whatever data that can be generated or that can be generated in respect to me or to an individual or to according to, let's say, for instance, the NDPR would say that a natural person, that particular data is private to that person. And I'm happy because when you talk about this data, it is not limited to all these physical things. It's not limited to numbers. It also, in a way, no, not in a way, it also goes to the kind of beliefs that I have, my political opinions, my political affiliations, my religious or other beliefs, So it's just personality in general, personality around a living person, So that is how I'm going to look at data privacy. And so privacy, should be something that should, for me, data privacy is sacrosanct and should be protected. And I dare to say, and why I don't know why Olumide doesn't want me to call him my boss, because sometimes he thinks so deep and then he shares these thoughts. And there was something he shared just recently, and I've been working with it. And I'm one of those people who is a proponent for decriminalization of abortion, because I believe that abortion has to do with the bodily integrity of a person. And I have always looked at abortion from the perspective of dignity, of the human dignity. I didn't connect the dots of abortion being a privacy issue. And sincerely, abortion, for me as an individual who wants to decide that, okay, I do not want a particular baby, it should be between me and my medical, the medical practitioner, who is supposed to keep everything that anything that has to do with my health, my medical history, as personal as possible. So you see, the privacy itself is just, it's linked with other human rights. It's linked, it's not standing on its own. So you can say it's linked to dignity, for instance. I'm talking of my bodily integrity. Nobody should be telling me at this time and age that I must compulsorily take a vaccine. It should be my own choice, my bodily integrity. If I do not believe in it, if I do not believe in that, or I feel that I have the bias or how do I say, phobia for chemicals, for instance. We have people who are naturalists in the world, and they don't believe that chemicals should go into their bloodstream. So if I say I don't want it, it's my dignity, it's my person. So privacy is beyond, it's beyond just saying that, oh, you keep information, for instance, privately, but it goes to the extent of breaching a lot of, it has thought processes, everything in particular. So I think that is what I can say for now on that. For me, that's because you said for me, data privacy, and I think that's enough for now.
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Nkanga. So privacy go beyond just one type of data. It could be in different, parts of our lives. So I've listened to you very well. I'll come back to you because I think I have a question for you based on what you have told us so far. So thank you very much. And without wasting time, I'm going to Mr. Gadasu. Yes, and it's it's good when you want to learn and you decide to learn from other people too, and that makes it easier for you to pick from people's experiences. So, Mr. Gadasu, without wasting time, I want you to please tell us what your experiences are from the Ghana climb in terms of what Ghana has done in terms of data privacy legislation, could be the regulation, and specifically what you as a person, as an expert, have contributed, and what you think should be done. So please, we want to learn from you. Mr. Gadasu, over to you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mojirayo. I think you have laid a very solid foundation for us to build on, and that is very great. All right. Like you made in your introduction, as at now, data privacy and protection, every country in this world has taken it seriously. And in Ghana, ours became an act in the year 2012. So actually last year was when the law took 10 years, which we have celebrated in many ways. So in terms of Ghana, what actually Ghana is doing is this. When the law was enacted, the commission needed to put in place certain things. So for example, even though the law has taken effect, there was no way they could have, start prosecuting offenders or organizations that were not compliant. So they first dwelled on building the capacity of the commission in charge by putting in place the commission and the necessary thing. Then the next was the training for people. You need to build capacity. Data privacy experts in the system, they need to understand, they need to have the capacity to be able to train, to educate people, helping organizations to comply. So that was how it started. Then it came on to now getting data controllers to register so that they will be known and be regulated by the commission. So this took a while. So from 2012 up until 2017, thereabout, that was where the concentration was. Then it went ahead to start training government institutions, because per the Ghanaian law or the act, all government institutions are automatic data controllers. And the government sector controls very huge volumes of personal data than most private institutions. So the concentration was to train them, get them on board to do the right thing. Then now they opened up to train quite a lot more. For now, I can say over 2,000 experts have been trained since the year 2017 up to now. And as we speak, right now, I just took time for this particular training. We are actually training another set of data protection supervisors. That's how we call it. Other jurisdiction is called the data protection officer. So we keep on training these individuals so that they can go ahead and educate. Then now what the commission has also done is they chase after huge processes or data control, big organizations that control huge volumes of data to get them to register and comply. So they have teams that goes after these people. They have public trainings. For example, last week being the data protection week, there were a series of training, awareness training for almost every sector of the economy: banking and finance, education and schools, medicals, hospitals, all these categories. They had lineup activities for all of them. And now also to make it much more easier, the commission has started, the first headquarters and offices were based in the capital, Accra, but now they have extended to our next biggest city, which is Kumasi, to make sure people or data subject has access to them. Processors and controllers also have access to the services provided by the Data Protection Commission. So there has been quite a lot more public education even though like any other government institution, they may be constrained in so many things, but they are also trying to do their best to make sure each and every individual, the citizens of Ghana, are getting on board, understanding what their privacy means to them. It is very expensive, and the harm of your privacy being breached is very, very huge. And nobody would want his or her privacy to be breached. We all want a safe internet, a safe environment where we can all operate. So from the perspective of Ghana, that has been the trend. And quite more, the Commission is also making it very tough for data controllers to bypass this. So they ensure you register, and when you are due for renewal in Ghana, every 2 years, you need to submit a compliance assessment form to indicate that, hey, this is what I am doing, this is what I've put in place to ensure you are doing the right thing before your certificate is renewed. The Commission has also partnered with very key institutions, for example, with the Bank of Ghana, that is in Nigeria, and the Bank of Nigeria, to make sure any institution that seeks certification or registration from the Bank of Ghana, until they produce their data protection regulation certificates, they wouldn't bring on board those institutions. So they have liaised with other institutions that control, or regulatory institutions like the banking sector, insurance sector, to ensure that all their members or the institutions that they regulate, they do have data protection registration certificate, and they are in good standing before organizations begin to deal with them. So from the Ghana perspective, this is what has been happening here. And Ghana also have a very close collaboration with the NDPP. They've been in Ghana here. We've sat down to consult, share ideas to see how we can all drive this thing. You know, it is not about Ghana, it is not about Nigeria, it is about Africans, it is about the citizens. Each and every one of them want to protect their citizens, and that is what we are forced to do. So briefly, that is what is happening in Ghana so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gadasu. I think I've learned a lot. And your last statement is not about Ghana, is not about Nigeria, but it's about Africa. What Africa is doing about data privacy. I think I like that so much. So I will still come back to you so that we can dig deeper. So please permit me to move into the court now. Mr. Olumide Babalola, please. We know that you have, treated a lot of cases, even at the courts. And we know that you've come out successfully in most of those cases. So we want you to share your experiences from what you have done so far, even in the court. And we also know that you are a researcher. So from what you have researched, vis-a-vis what you have brought out of the court, please, can you just share your experience and let us learn from all those experiences? Thank you very much. Mr. Olumide, over to you.
Thank you once again for the invitation. So to start with, the cases I handled, most of them were not successful. So to start from there, maybe we only had 2 or 3 judgments in our field, but we found many. I've been filing cases on privacy since 2015, and most of them, I wouldn't call them successful, and I wouldn't call them unsuccessful, because you see, the thing about data protection, data privacy as a whole, it starts from awareness. It starts from education. It starts from understanding the concept itself. Because if you don't understand the concept, you might not even know how to approach it. And Africa as a whole, we're just coming to the understanding of the concept of privacy. Only Kenya and South Africa have gone far in their jurisprudence. I'm researching privacy in my PhD, and the only 2 African countries, the Anglophone African countries, I can resort to for resources, materials, are just South Africa and Kenya in terms of court decisions. Very fantastic and robust court decisions on the right of privacy, to the extent where tenants, see cases where tenants, they have taken their landlords to court with respect to violation of privacy. We've only seen 1 or 2 cases in Nigeria like that. And even the court did not even approach it like the court was approaching something that for that. Some of them, the court overlooked privacy. and it shows we don't understand. I also, every day, I also get to realization of many privacy interests that we have abandoned, or sorry, that we never gave attention to. So privacy as a whole, everything starts from understanding. So the cases we have litigated in court were not particularly for us to succeed. They were not particularly for us to win. They were much more strategic litigation cases to bring the court's attention to this ignored privacy interest. For example, not until 2018, 2017, that Nigeria got the first kind of appeal decision on unsolicited calls, on all these text messages and all these calls from unknown organizations, marketing, telemarketing. Before that time, those cases were strictly dealt with as nuisance, the thought of nuisance. That was the court's understanding. That, come on, if somebody is disturbing you like that, it is nuisance. It is a thought. It's a civil wrong. It's not a violation of human rights. And that was very critical. And it had serious consequences on the development of the right to privacy. So the cases we handled, the experience we got, or the impression we got, was that even from the lawyer's perspective, from the judge's perspective, our understanding of privacy needs to be brushed up a lot before we even begin to talk about the truth. Because if lawyers that will litigate privacy don't understand, they cannot identify privacy in some of their courses of action. If a client gives you a set of facts and you cannot distill when privacy has been violated in it. Of course, in every set of facts, there might be many courses of action. There are many issues that you can raise. But because we hardly give privacy the kind of attention that we give all other fundamental rights. I mean, a certain academic doctor wrote on how privacy is the most, is the most under litigated attention. We don't even consider it, even when it tells us this. And it shows the kind of value Africans place on it. We can argue this thing from today till tomorrow. Africans don't value privacy that much. That's why privacy is hardly one of the cases that you take to court. Under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, all the fundamental rights are there. Right to privacy is not there. Even right to self-determination is there. The right to go your own way as a people, as a tribe. The African Charter recognizes it. Yet, the African Charter there is nothing like, of course, the arguments that, right to dignity is there. But what puts dignity there and omits privacy? So the Westerners have argued that Africans don't value privacy. So everything starts from that's the experience. Those were the things, those were the feelers I got while litigating privacy. Even in courts, you just see judges either deliberately or otherwise avoiding the issues around privacy. They would rather go to issues and leave privacy. Even in the decisions, even Supreme Court decision, I'll tell you one very important case. And it's unfortunate for the woman. A woman was diagnosed with HIV. The husband did not have HIV. She was victimized by the husband. That she was adulterous, faithful. And the husband informed people in the village or in their community that the wife had HIV. The husband now went further to inform some thugs, some troublemakers. Maybe he now engaged them to go to the matrimonial home, take forcefully eject the woman from a matrimonial home on the ground, because these things were stated in the judgment. They ejected her on the ground of being HIV positive. They went to court. Yes, the woman's lawyer, with credit to him, part of his prayers, part of his beliefs was that the woman's right to private and family life, right to privacy, was violated when they invaded his, our matrimonial home and took out our properties, our belongings. They invaded our home. This matter got to the Supreme Court, apex court in Nigeria. The Supreme Court carefully and tactically moved the case out of right to privacy and rather concluded that the case had more to do with matrimonial causes. In other words, the case was struck out at the Supreme Court. So without wasting much of our time, if the message, the most critical point or the most critical message I got while researching, while litigating right to privacy, and I'm thankful to your organization for doing this. We might need to do more, but everything, it's not just people in the village, even learned people are not so conscious. Privacy consciousness in Africa is abysmally low, very low. Even it is worse among educated people. And this tells how we use social media. It tells a lot how we use social media. It tells a lot that we don't even value this thing called privacy. How we put so many intimate things on social media. And sometimes you still want them to be secure. Meanwhile, you are treating your own. Of course, you might have what we call expectation of privacy, reasonable expectation of privacy. But you must understand the concept of privacy and how it operates. If you have expectation of privacy, but the people around you don't even understand what we talk about privacy. The African community started, the history of the African community is that of communalism. Privacy is individualism. So if we are going to work our way from communalism to privacy, there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you very much once again for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olumide Babalola. We appreciate your contribution, and I've learned a lot. I had the issue of, the level of knowledge of even the so-called learned needs to be brushed up, not to talk about the unlearned, Then that means probably the issue of centralization and so on and so forth has to come in. So please just hold your thought on that. I'll come back to you because you have to tell us the way forward. So thank you very much. I'll come back to you. So I want to go back to Mrs. Nkanga now. I remember you mentioned that we shouldn't look at this issue from a parochial, point of view. Because private data has to do with so many aspects of our life. So please, I just want to ask a practical question now. So based on what you said when you started the conversation, and looking at our situation in Nigeria now, for instance, I know that, let me tell you that, I know that you have passport, international passport, which of course you have to get from, the immigration service. You have a driver's license, which you have to get from, the responsible agency. You have national, what's it called now? The other ID card, national ID card, which of course you got from NIMC and so on and so forth. So that means we have, different data scattered all over. So what is your thought? Or what do you think we can do? What is the way forward for us to make sure that we bring all this data together? I mean, I think we need to harmonize the data.
Thank you.
If you think we don't have to harmonize, you tell us the way forward. Thank you, Mrs. Nkanga.
Thank you, Engineer. Interestingly, I actually agree with you completely that there has been a proliferation of information. As in, you have a situation where a country collects data, NIN, national identity, for what do you call this? For you to vote, you need to still get a voter's card. And then for you to drive, you need a vehicular license. And then for you to, which one again? For your passport, you need, everybody is collecting this data. And if you look at the structure of the country itself, you should know that I actually want to apologize in case there's anybody in government here and they want to take this sensitive. I feel that governance in Nigeria itself is confusing. Or the people there that are making decisions are generally confused. I feel that way because these things are not really they're not really casting this how do I say, it's not like it's casting a particular stone, and they should be easier. I believe that there are easier way of considering how data should be collected. Or, for instance, you have a national identity, you have a national, Identity Management Commission. Now, for instance, and I want to get a passport, the immigration should be able to say, okay, this is Mojirayo in my presence, and they want to request information about Mojirayo Ogunlana-Nkanga. They should be able to make a request to the NIMSI, for instance, and then, of course, with my permission, which of course it's clear from the NDPR, you need my consent. And then if I come to you to ask for you to make me a passport, then interestingly, you want to go back as immigration, and then you go back to NIMSI and say, oh yes, we need you to help us with the details of this person. And then, of course, it makes it seamless. It's just seamless. I've also heard in situations where, for instance, in the US, you can actually vote without somebody was saying it recently that if you want to vote, you can actually use your identity. You don't need to have a specific voter's card. And they were saying things like this. And I said, oh, really? And it just goes to show that as a country, we have a lot of things to do, especially if we can have a particularly data protection law in place, not just a regulation. When we have, of course, with the regulation, we would expect that a lot can be done, or a lot should have been done since 2019 till date, but it's obvious especially from what for instance, what Olumide was saying, that there is this apathy. There is this apathy generally when it comes to the issue of privacy and data. That is why our National Assembly can just sit down one day and decide that they're going to give, what do you call it? Not give. They are going to approve the 4.8 billion naira to the National Intelligence Agency, for instance, to monitor and spy citizens on WhatsApp chat, text messages, and phone calls. They can say this, and then of course they would always lie under this exception in the Constitution, Section 45, and say, oh, it's in the interest of the public, interest of safety, interest of health. And we don't have a special regard for privacy. We don't have it. And so if we do have it, I believe that we will not have this multiplication of data. And then of course the people that are handling our data also, it's scary. I can give you an example of now, because I wanted to get the national identity card for my niece. We went to the bank, and when we got to the bank, we were told that, oh, she needs a NIN. And then when they said she needed a NIN, they said, oh, just look at the desk over there. That man there takes your information and will create a NIN for you. And it was just, just like that. Do you know how many Nigerians just go there, just like that? And then this individual takes your details. This individual that I do not even ask, is not identifiable. I have not been able to verify his personality. Who are you? Are you a government official? What do you do? As in, why are you the one coming here to collect this particular data? Because you are working in line with, sorry, that wasn't a bank, sorry, 9 Mobile. Yeah, sorry. So it was in 9 Mobile. I wanted to get a SIM card, and then, he was just there and was collecting this information. So everyone that doesn't have NIN, for instance, and they walk into 9 Mobile with the intention of having a line, a phone number, they can just walk up to that desk guy. The guy just takes the information, and then he says he's imputing it onto this thing. Meanwhile, he could be a fraudulent person. Yes, he can create a NIN for you, but he has a computer. And with a computer, you can have storage. And with storage, you can have, manipulations. There's so many things that can happen with your collection of my data. So until Nigeria is able to have a law first in place, they're not only about having that law or having a particular regulation. It's about being sincere and being committed to protecting the privacy and data of every individual, which of course I would not be optimistic about, because the country itself or the leadership that we have, they do not have this, they just feel that, when you just write, sign on to all these international instruments, for instance, or have a constitution. Yes, of course, they say you are obliged, or you are obligated. You have a positive and negative obligation to make sure that to comply with this law and all that. Generally, Nigeria is one of those people that breaches a lot of all these international instruments. They breach it. And then when you go to court and you get judgment against them, it becomes even harder to even be able to enforce that judgment against them. They even will disregard you and just put you aside as if that judgment is not proceeding from the third arm of the government. It becomes as if there's no real goodwill. Like that's how would I put it? That's good faith in actually protecting the rights of their citizens or complying with the court's judgments, in respect of their citizens. So it's understandable, for instance, where you say that the Supreme Court, the apex court of the land, cannot see a privacy issue for what it is, and then cannot distinguish between the privacy issue with the matrimonial cost issue. Because if we take, for instance, this case that Olumide just mentioned, I know that I've gone in tangent a bit out of what you asked, but if you take, for instance, that case you just mentioned, there is a criminal aspect to that particular case. We have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act and then laws in different states. For instance, at the point of picking up that person's case, a lawyer can actually have 3 different suits that are not related on 3 different subject matters. 1, complaint to the police that this person has been ejected from a house forcefully. That is already a crime. 1. 2, you go into the matrimonial custody and say, okay, yes, this is, you want separation or whatever, you want a divorce. That's 2. Then you go on to, and then go to the extent of privacy. Why should my medical information or the information between myself and my husband be communicated to a third party? So that, and then there are so many things like that you can actually look at. And so coming back, I am totally for having a specific law, not, and when that law is in place, we know now that we have a regulatory body that was, created in February 2022. That body itself should not be as usual. I can just be nice and say as usual in the sense that we create regulatory bodies, we create institutions, but we don't create oversight functions. We don't create oversight mechanisms for ensuring that they are doing exactly what they were installed to do. So, in this case, if you have a regulatory body now, like the NPDB, what do you call them? You have to ensure that they are communicating with the government in place to harmonize this data that is all over the place. This data is all over the place. If you can, there's nothing wrong in having one card that consists of all the information that is necessary for everybody. And of course, people may argue, oh, can you have a vehicular license on your national identity card, for instance? It all depends on the platforms that you create from having that particular card. It's, when I say platform, like should I be using technical words like softwares, like softwares, and then that you create, not just not just run lackadaisically, but of course you have to think about what the government is actually doing to ensure that, for instance, I present my NIN. With my NIN, you can pull out my information about, oh, do you have a driver's license? I can just tell you, oh, this is, yes, I do. And then, of course, I can tell you my number, just tell you my number. And then, of course, they can just confirm on their tablets, for instance. Or, everything is possible. But we need people who can be retrained, can be trained and be retrained. And not only trained and retrained, they are able to develop and move with international standards. They move with the times, progressive people who are thinking about advancing the digital space, for instance, the digital space of Nigerians, because the world is moving very fast. But I don't think we are moving along, because if you look at Africa alone, Nigeria is one of the countries that have a pending law. Just look at Africa. Nigeria is out of 5 that have a pending law. Out of 5. That means in Africa, you have over, from the data I was able to pull out, you have over 33 African countries that have a data law. And then Nigeria is the one that has been considered over the years as the giant of Africa. Can you, Mr. Akwasi just told us today now, for instance, that they've had this law since 2012. 2012. This is 2023. Oh my goodness, there is a lot to be, there's a lot to be done. If I continue, I won't give other people time to speak. So, engineer, let me just stop here. Engineer Kunle.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Nkanga. Hello, can you hear me?
No,
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate your response. All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Nkanga. I want to go to Mr. Kaduga now, and this time around, I want you to just oppose Ghana and Nigeria, and perhaps tell us from your own experience and what you have done so far in Ghana, what do you think is the way forward for Nigeria, or let's say the way forward for Africa as a whole? But before you answer that, please, you can keep your thoughts while you are still ruminating on that. I quickly want to read some chats here. Mr. Taiwo Akinremi just gave us a piece of good news that the regulation in Nigeria is being wrapped up now, that probably maybe very soon we're going to have one. So probably maybe you can consider that while answering my question too. And he also made another comment. He said that having regulations is not actually the issue, but does that regulation, speak to the need of Africa? So perhaps maybe if you can put all this together while answering my question, we definitely appreciate that. Over to you, Mr. Gadasu.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry, 5 minutes. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Okay.
Let me just put a cap on the time.
All right, that's fine. Okay, so thank you very much. I think so far it's been the same challenges that Ghana faced from initially, I think Nigeria also faced, but the learning curve has been quite very sharp for Nigeria. All right. Now, training is one of very key to addressing privacy issues. If you look at what our first lawyer said, Mr. Olumide said, is it? Yes, it's a law.
Yes,
it's the law has been enacted, or we have the regulations there. But not all lawyers understand the law, that particular law, so they are unable to implement this. So it is also key that our learned colleagues, the lawyers, the counsels, and other things also take practical education, focused education in the area of data protection and privacy to really understand before they can help the rest of the population to adjudicate matters in the law courts. And for example, in Ghana, most of the time, we have lawyers who comes into our training. And as we speak, today's training we have 2 lawyers who are part. They also help to understand. And coming from the legal background, they make very, very good inputs. They get better understanding, and it gives them that understanding to be able to prosecute issues that are related to privacy. So they are now, as a result of such trainings, they are able to decipher issues and know which ones are really data privacy issues so that they can prosecute or defend accordingly in that direction. So it is very important. So the training is very, very key. Before we can have people to help organizations protect citizens' data, Nigerian citizens' data, we need to have these people trained. They need to build capacity. Now, the law in itself would not offer any practical grounds for individuals to be able to do anything. Yes, you could be a lawyer, but without understanding, having thoroughly understood what the law is, how its implementation is supposed to be, we wouldn't be able. Now, let's come to how Nigeria can. Now, Ghana has made some strides, and Nigeria is doing very wonderfully. Yes, I think so far, the NDPR, which is now a bill before the Senate, has not been passed. And as soon as it is passed, I think there's a lot of work that are going to be done. But I am so much happy for the creation of the NDPB. Initially it started with the NITDA, which was in control of the NDPR quite for some time before the NDPB was created. Now it gives authority to the NDPB to be able to create, and harness and, actually lead the direction into getting when it becomes an act, getting it done. And I think that's one of the great and fantastic. So the foundation has been laid. But what is needed much more is getting it down to the people that is concerned, the data subjects, the data processors, and the data controllers. And one of the things that I will be happy, or I will suggest to the NDPB to really be serious about it, is the fines. You see, in our Ghanaian law, the fines are just something small. Something very, very small that organization can easily pay, and that wouldn't be a problem to them. But when you compare to the GDPR, which is up to very huge sums of money in percentages of your global annual revenue, if that is instituted, it will put some restraints to organizations to be very careful. If penalties and fines are going to affect your finances, every organization will be very, very serious about it. So my suggestion and recommendation is that the NDPB should be very much focused on the penalties and also to mete out, enforce the law on all organizations that default. And also, the education to the citizens of Nigeria is very important. Once citizens know their rights, they would exercise it. But until such is done, we wouldn't be able. And as Mr. Olumide, the council said, it is also very important for us to test the law in the courts. Until such laws are tested, the court too will not grow. They will not learn. The court will learn as precedences and as issues come on board, they will learn, and that will straighten the way so that it becomes easier to adjudicate on matters of privacy. So I think putting in place all this would be very important. Then to the African level, fine, there has been some precedents, some progress has been made in that direction. Now we have the regulators or the supervisory authorities across Africa. They have come together. So they are one. So including the Commissioner for Nigeria, Ghana, and all the other African countries. They have a platform where they are trying to see something that will be very common to all African nations. Just like the GDPR, all the European Union countries have their own privacy law. But the GDPR as an umbrella to govern all the EU members. So African-wide too, that is also very key and very important, so that we revisit it from the African perspective, so that one organization processing data in Ghana, when they get to Nigeria, when they get to Uganda, when they get to South Africa, they will all follow the same principles and it will be okay, so that we will not have to be dealing with different set of laws and regulations across. Even though as it stands now, based on the principles, the Convention 108, that all of us have deduced our laws from, it gives us some leverage to interoperate. However, if we have an Africa-wide one, let's say an AU data protection regulation or laws, it will better streamline things and make it easier for international transfers of data, to make it easy for businesses to also operate. So with this, I think Africa can move a step further and we could all do better. And also, individuals, you and I, like what ISOC Nigeria have done, this is very fantastic. We are educating, we are learning from each other, and it will spread, and everybody will know his or her rights in terms of privacy, so that we are all protected and safe. And those who are using our data, they use it in compliance with the necessary laws. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Gadasu, now you have talked another issue. I think I'll transfer that to Mr. Olumide. And I remember at that time I asked Mr. Olumide to keep his thoughts on.
Hello, Engineer Kunle. We can't hear you. You're not audible enough. Could you please check your volume?
Hello?
Could you come close to your phone, please?
Hello, can you hear me now?
It's
Am I
faint.
audible now?
It's faint. Can you increase your volume?
Hello,
Yeah, it's better now.
yes, this is Max. Okay. I'm actually on the move. Sorry about that. All right. So Mr. Olumide, please, I want you to now bring up your thoughts on the issue of sensitization. How do we overcome that? And now that the issue of the European GDPR, that the General Data Protection Regulation, has been mentioned by Mr. Gadasu. So I want us to delve into it a little bit. It has several structures talking about the organization, the collation of data, the ratio, and so many others. So please, what do you think we can take from that as Africans? Let's look at it from the African perspective now, before we now cascade down to Nigeria. Mr. Olumide, please, over to you. Thank you very much. 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much once again. Please, I'll have to rush after making this intervention. I'm running late for another engagement. Yes, so everybody has said what needs to be done. The first thing is education. It's sad that Chiderah is not on the call, because this speaks to their organization. The NDPB is trying. I'll give credit to them, but more needs to be done. First of all, before we even begin to run after the controllers or the processors or the businesses, we need to let people know that they have these rights. Data protection rights, because inside the data protection laws, there are many rights. Somebody said the problem is not regulation. I beg to disagree with the person. The problem first is that of regulation, is that of the law. If there is no law, what do you want to enforce? If there is no law, what does the lawyer work with? If there is no law, what does the agency work with? In other countries, they call the data protection authorities, like the NDPB, they call them the ombudsman. They call them data protection ombudsman. They are the ones, they are the watchdog. They are the ones who watch people who violate these laws and run after them, punish them, and make them sit up. So if they don't have law, what they want to work with? In fact, this is an open secret. That the reason the NDPB has not been so active is because, as we speak, there is no law that has established NDPB. There is no law that is empowering them to act. So they want to wait till they have the reason to bite. They can only back these days. They can't bite. But it is the laws that will give them the powers to fight, and not just a regulation, because that regulation has so many problems of its own. Legitimacy problem, force of law problem, enforcement problem. So many things with the regulation, but we are talking about having a national act that everybody can run with. So after educating people, then we now need capacity building. First of all, capacity building for the regulator, because they need capacity. They need people who understand this thing. They need people who can work this thing. They need people who can enforce. They need people who can advise the government. They need people who can advise the citizens. They need people who can advise the businesses. So they need structure. They need funding. They need it before they can move. That's capacity in terms of the government. Capacity in terms of the citizens. We need professionals, privacy professionals, who are willing to invest resources, invest time. There are some conferences I've gone to all over the world that I paid myself. Nobody paid for me. Nobody, I mean, I wasn't looking for handouts. I knew that I had to invest. So we need professionals who want to come into the field, willing to invest, who are going to schools all over the world to learn. People are going into organizations all over the world to get their hands dirty. So we need more professionals, very more, so that, and this is not just about lawyers, technocrats in other fields, engineers, information analysts, information technology specialists, and everybody to build themselves up in the knowledge of data protection, privacy, and sundry issues. Then when we get to that stage, capacity building for the professionals now, then we're not beginning now to talk about the national will. So apart from the fact that, okay, we have all this, the willingness to prosecute, the willingness to execute. The right to privacy has been in the Constitution since 1954 or 1958. Not even the 1960 Constitution, before the Order in Council Constitution, it's been there. The right to private and family life. But what do we have in court? Nothing. So if we have all those capacities, and we have lawyers who could litigate, then the willingness to also litigate, the willingness to execute, the willingness to make it happen. Then I think when we begin to put all these things together, then collaboration, extremely important. People in government, people in private practice, collaborating together to do things. And I think gradually the industry will get better for it. Thank you very much again for the invitation. At this point, I have to run.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Olumide. We appreciate you. I heard you and yourself probably need to take your leave. We appreciate you, and thank you very much for participating in this program. If you are still around, I'll send you your last word. If you are leaving now, we really appreciate your presence. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to Mrs. Nkanga and make your recommendation. Based on all these discussions that we have had so far, I want you to put up a recommendation. What is your position? What are you positing? Thank you.
Engineer Kunle, can you repeat that? You are very far away. You need to move closer or something.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, very well now.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Once again, I have to apologize. I'm actually on the move. So I'm trying to multitask. Yes. So yes, well, the question is, this is the last round. So I want you to put up a recommendation. We want your position. We want to know your position. I mean, the way forward. What do you recommend? I mean, having discussed all these myriads of issues with respect to data privacy in Nigeria, what is your own take? As in, what are you recommending for us going forward? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. I just want to follow the line of the previous speakers and say that, and other speakers to say that there is need for education. Education is actually very key. And I would, apart from going straight to the professionals, I think even every single Nigerian, wherever they are, should be able to know what privacy is, should be able to know what data itself is. And, data should be expatiated, as in they should understand what data is. Because, in my opening speech, I had said that data is beyond just, it's very large, it's very broad. So Nigerians need a very good education on that. And that ordinarily would have been something to be taken up by the National Orientation Agency, but I don't know how far they have been functioning. So apart from education, that's educating the citizens. Now we have the educating the professionals, educating, for instance, if it doesn't have to be lawyers alone. If you're in finances and you're collecting information, you're in the financial sector, you want to collect information that has to do with maybe opening a bank account, for instance, the person that is collecting that data needs to be very, very educated on data, on privacy. You need to know all this. This should be trainings that should take place within organizations, within companies, both private and public. And so there has to be training of even every arm of government. In my opinion, they need to be trained on what privacy is, because there won't have been a delay, in my opinion. Why somebody had said, what do they mean by there is no law, that there is a regulation? The regulation does not have the how do you put it? And I know it's Faith that is asking that question, which is very interesting, because I know that Faith knows what she's doing by asking that question. So naturally, if you want to really go to town with a particular law, you need that law to be either an act of the National Assembly or a law by a state. So it's easier for you when it comes to implementation. It's easier, for the enforceability and the efficacy of that particular provision. It's better when it is a law that's been made in the National Assembly. So it's easier for everybody that comes in contact with that law. So when I go back to training of these lawmakers, they need to understand why data protection is very important. And so that law should not be something that they play with or delay on. And then the executive themselves, they need to know, because this executive controls a lot of institutions and agencies. So they need to know what data protection is. So if I go, for instance, God forbid, of course, when somebody has a conviction, for instance, I'm not going to use myself. Now, when somebody has a conviction, a criminal conviction, the data that is being collected, should it be made public, for instance? These are questions that we need to be asking ourselves. That somebody, yes, generally they say that, oh, if you are convicted, you go to court. Once you go to court, it's a public proceeding, it's there and all that. But in your record, let's say you serve your term, and then after you served your term, it's over and done, and then you want to, okay, maybe for instance, somebody it was a case of stealing, for instance, and then the person had this conviction. Why should the information about stealing have to do with some other? It's something broad. I shouldn't go into it right now, please. Let me go back to what I was saying. So there's need for us to train the judiciary, especially the judges, because, oh my goodness, we have encountered a lot of things in the court. Something that should be seamless and should be straightforward, especially on digital rights. And then you see people going into other issues that does not even have any bearing on what you are in court before them, because they don't know. And that is just the truth. They don't know. If they know, they'll be able to do better. And so that's what my opinion will be on. That what we need to do, education, training, and retraining on privacy, on data, on every level in this country, and most especially in the police and all these enforcement agencies. So that is my takeaway of what I'm giving everyone to take away with them to think about.
Thank you very. All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. So I'm going to Mr. Gadasu now. Please, we want to hear from you, your recommendation based on all the discourse that we have had so far. What are you recommending as the way forward? Mr. Gadasu, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. The way forward is training, capacity building, and awareness creation. We need to build the capacity of professionals to train organizations in-house and give them the needed understanding of what privacy means. That to me is very, very key. Then also the NDPP leading the process. First of all, like we are saying, you know, a lot of people do not understand the difference between what the regulation is and what the bill is and when it becomes an act approved by Parliament. So I think that one will leave it for the legal matter. But very soon we expect that the Senate should pass the bill into law, okay, into an act, so that it will become very binding, something that the Commission, the NDPP, can use to prosecute people and actually help them regulate data controllers and processors. All right. Then aside that, the training is very, very key. And government institutions across Nigeria, government institutions process huge volumes of data than any private institution. So it is key that we get the government agencies to comply. Because across the world, government institutions are the worst offenders when it comes to data privacy and breaches. Government institutions are the worst offenders. So how would they be trained to really understand these things and, you know, put in place mechanisms to ensure that data controllers and processors are complying with the act? Then also awareness creation across the entire Nigeria. Every individual should know their rights in terms of privacy and what the law, the rights that the law gives to them. It is very, very important that every citizen is aware of this so that they can request or they can ensure that every organization that they deal with grants them their rights according to what the law specifies. So I think with this, we would move forward. It's a step. We will not be able to do all these things in one day or the next 2-3 months, but we'll see progression on daily basis, on monthly, weekly basis that we are moving on. For example, in the course of the week celebration, Data Protection Day celebration, ISOC Nigeria has organized it. How far has the NDPP, what are the activities that they have lined up? To what extent? Is it only in the cities? Is it in the villages? Is it only to the educated? What about the uneducated? Our grandmothers in the villages, and how does this education goes to them? So it is important that the awareness is created. And when people become aware, they will begin to force institutions to ensure they do the right thing according to the law. So with this, I think we can go forward. Thank you very much. Yeah, Engineer Kunle, can you hear me?
Okay, so Engineer Kunle is somewhere in the country, and like he said, he's not too comfortable with it, but he's been doing his best. So far, so good. And we're just above the hour that we decided we were going to spend. We were looking at using 1 hour. We spent close to 20 more minutes, even though we lost less than that. It's great to have everyone here. I hope we can still have Engineer Kunle back, but he's muted at the moment. So without wasting time, next slide.
Hello?
Oh, okay, Engineer Kunle is back. Go ahead.
Yes, please. Yes, as a matter of fact, I just want to crave the indulgence of this honorable gathering that I may have to hand over to you at this juncture. Please, I'm trying to do some things and it requires my full attention. So, Mr. Kiko, please, please, I really want to urge you to continue.
Thank you, Engineer Kunle.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Engineer Kunle, for your time, your service to the Internet Society Nigerian chapter. We appreciate you. He's currently at another assignment as we speak, and he has taken the time out of his time to ensure that his service to his country and his group or society goes down well. So the floor is open for questions and feedback. Of course, you can bet that the meeting chat room has been very, very busy, especially with questions and responses from the likes of Taiwo Akinremi. He's been doing his best to educate some of us also in the chat room so that we don't miss any of the discussion. Of course, the speakers too, Emmanuel, Mojirayo, have taken the time to go to the chat room to respond to most of those questions. So if there is any question here that we do not see, please permit me by bringing it to the general public. I know there was a question from Faith about what about the NDPR, and I think there have been responses to that based on the fact that it is not law. It's there was a particular word used for it. Okay, Caleb has a question. Caleb, okay, Caleb.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So quick question. Thank God Faith probably asked that question that we have a regulation, but it is actually not a legislation yet. So my issue with, or the question I have probably to Mojirayo is, can you use regulation, which is supposed to be like a standard operating procedure, right, as some form of punitive measures for defaulters on the one hand? Now, on the other hand, the second question also to Mojirayo is that government are the same set of people with maybe with other stakeholders formulating the bill on data protection, right? Government also have been known to be the biggest defaulter of some of these regulations. Secondly, government is also the police dog that is having to monitor all of these issues, such as the NDPR. The appointment of the Data Privacy Commissioner is done by the government, right? Do you see political interference in citizens' data? These are just my general thoughts and says that I just feel I want to ask as general question to Mojirayo.
Okay, thank you, President. Yes, I have a lot of issues with, how do I put it, with laws that are drafted without oversight functions to be given to the judiciary. Now, I know that generally there's always this mindset, of course, that can that person, Shamsuddin, can you mute yourself, sir, please? Thank you, sir. I've lost my thoughts there, but let me go back. Now, I feel that when you have a government, the government is the one creating the law. But now, let's be sincere. In a saner, the way we always say it, in a saner climate, you know that the functions of the legislators, the executive, and the judiciary, they are all separated. Nothing is linked, you know. And it is easier for citizens of a particular country, I'll use US as a case study, to make sure that their legislators, people who they elect there or who they put there to represent them, are actually representing their interests. If somebody is not representing their interests, they don't waste time to recall the person. But of course, we don't have that kind of situation in Nigeria. You can see a senator, for instance, that is actually not in the National Assembly advancing your interest. But you see, Nigerians don't care. Nobody cares about to recall. I was even surprised that the people of Kogi State were bold enough. That was the only instance I can remember where they decided that they were not going to put Dino Melaye back into the National Assembly. And that was very interesting. It's an interesting fact. Imagine if we had every citizen actually participating in governance to the extent that they know when somebody is not representing their interest and they can easily call that person back. Imagine if Nigerians all knew about data protection and then they know that there is a law that was, in fact, there was one that was pending as of 2020, right? And now there's another one that is still pending before the National Assembly, that has not been considered, even when some other things have been considered and sent to the president for assent. And these guys have up to, I think, till June, to make any decision that they want to make. So imagine if Nigerians are all educated enough, or they all have this information at their disposal, and then they have people who can put them together and gather together and say, okay, no, this person is not representing our interest. Let us pull him out. Now, it will put a lot of pressure on the legislature, whereby they will be thinking about our interests and then be making laws that would, of course, make a law, for instance, about data protection. Now, when you now have a situation where they are making laws and you are seeing that there is no doubt that there is going to be arbitrary, there will be an arbitrary function, how do you put it, execution, in that the person you are complaining to may actually not end up being the person that is judging, that will now be able to say, oh yes, you have breached, and they will not be the one to be, there's one word we use in law, that you should not be a judge in your own case, you know. But when you have a law that gives oversight function, for instance, to the judiciary, it curbs it. So that goes into the fact that when you're talking about, we have a regulation. Yes, we have a regulation in place, but we need to also ask ourselves, will the regulation in law be as effective as when you have it as a legislation? Will it be, you know, because if we can look at the history of Nigeria itself and look at the regulations that they've had. We have had some regulations which gave, for instance, the NCC had been able to carry out arbitrary decisions because they have a regulation. And when they carried out these arbitrary decisions, it was easy, for instance, for people like me, I can go to court and say that this act by the NBC? Yeah, sorry, NBC is arbitrary. And then, of course, when I go to the court, and then, you know, we go about and start asking about constitutionality. So there will not be an issue of constitutionality that will now come to court. Because number one, it's not even it's not an act of the National Assembly. It was a decision by the executive arm. So it's easier for me to find the loopholes and then work with the loopholes. But when we have an act in place, for instance, and then that act is actually considered in conformity, in compliance, not contradictory to the Constitution, everything becomes easier to work with. It's not that if an act is in place that you can't go to court to go and, you know, to go and enforce a particular right, or to go and say, oh, this is unconstitutional. You will still go back there. But with an act, it's easier. It's seamless, as I keep saying, to work with it, you know. And then for even the regulatory bodies that would also be recognized by that act. You know, for instance, Olumide had said that they said NDPB, yeah, I keep missing them up, PB, Nigerian Data Protection Board, Bureau, sorry, had said that, oh, there is no law in place, so it is a bit curtailing the effectiveness. Well, why not avoid it and by having a law in place in the first place? So, you know, it makes everything easier. But let's not forget one thing. When we are drafting all these laws, we must make sure, we must ensure that they give the judiciary its place, the oversight function. It's not about you saying that somebody will pay 10 million naira because the person has breached this thing. But you need to go to the courts, as I always say, with an ex parte, for instance, and say this person has breached this. Let there be a judicial insight to whatever you're doing. Don't just take an arbitrary decision that can easily, you know, how do I say it? Hey, there's one word I want to use, you know, that can easily be contradicted, can easily be opposed and say, no, this decision cannot stand. It is illegal, it is unlawful and all that. So I think that's about what I can answer from my own knowledge, I think. Yeah.
Akimbo, are you still there? Okay, if Akimbo is not there, I think we'll just follow the agenda to wrap up what we're supposed to do. So, but I thought, Chinwe, are you there? Chinwe.
Yeah, I'm here, but in a noisy place. I can't speak. If I hear the sound, I'm here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think you are supposed to just
I'm back.
Yeah, follow the agenda. Yeah.
Okay. So we're still in questions and answers. My apologies. My button was misbehaving. I was trying to press the button and it was going up and down. Okay, so we have one hand up. One hand up. And so we'll go for that, just one hand, and then we'll wrap it up. Bukari Badamosi, you have the floor. Please make it brief. question? Bukari Badamosi, final boarding call, sorry, final call. Okay, Busari may be having the same challenge I had some few minutes ago. In the next 2 minutes, we'll be, wrapping it up. Joel Okomoli, a member of ISOC Kenya, is with us, and he's stating a position saying true arbitrary decisions will always be challenged in the same or higher courts. And they say thank you, of course, to the last speaker who has responded. So in the absence of any question, Bukari Badamosi, final. Okay, thank you so much. Following the agenda, Mr. President, you wanted to appoint Madam Chinwe for an assignment, I presume?
Yes. Yeah,
please go ahead.
Do the closing remarks and resolution, and appreciation to our panelists and the audience.
All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, good afternoon. Thank you to all our panelists. It's been an insightful session. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you for sharing Ghana's thoughts and ideas and Ghana's giant strides in the area of data protection. Thank you, Mojirayo, of course, for always being a very scintillating facilitator on trainings. And thank you to Mr. Olumide, and of course, everyone who has been on this call, basically. Thank you, Mr. President, the Secretary, the Vice President, everyone who has been here. And thank you to our wonderful members of ISOC who have joined from all over the world. Thank you, Priscilla, for also joining the call. I may not be able to mention anybody's name, but thank you so much for being here on the call. Let's just keep pushing policies and even personal data protection so that everything will be fine. So my name is Chinwe Obuja, Program Secretary ISOC. Thank you so much. We hope to see you in our coming events. Safer Internet Day is just around the corner, 7th of February. And we're having our outreaches in school, secondary school, trying to carry the younger generation along in our work. And we also have collaborations with other people in the webinars. In a few days, we will get all of that flyer out. We hope to see you. Thank you so much for making internet safe. And let's keep trying to ensure that internet is available for everyone. Thank you so much, Chinwe, again. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chinwe, thank you. Madam Chinwe Obuja is Program Secretary. We appreciate you. On this note, I think over to Caleb. We need to take pictures. Oh, we need to take pictures.
Okay, I guess. I have to stop sharing and well, all the slide. Now, I think we can all maybe put our pictures so we can see our beautiful faces. Did you all do makeup for this picture? Mojirayo, did you do makeup for this picture? Let's be honest.
My president, I was in court today. I just rushed back to my system to come for this. I was in court for some hours. So
you did makeup for the judge to make sure
I tried to wear my makeup to court. In fact, it had gotten me in trouble at the Supreme Court before. The justice was like, you took your time to look like this, to do makeup like this. Why?
Okay. So Francis, thank you for joining us. So I see lots of our friends from other parts of
Africa and the world.
Africa. So let me recognize all presidents and chapter executive from other African countries that are part of this. This is the kind of collaboration that we've been talking about, and I'm happy to see some of these things come to life. Thank you, Francis, for joining us. Thank you for loaning us your friend from Ghana to share his views. Even though we want to take picture, just say in 10 seconds. Just say hello to us.
All right, thank you so much, Kunle, for this opportunity. So, good afternoon, everyone. This is Francis, SO Ghana. So, Ghana, Nigeria, Niger, we are brothers. So, in everything we would want to collaborate. So, we're looking forward for a more better partnership this year. So, we're looking forward to a program, ISOC Nigeria. We tried it last year, but it wasn't possible. We're hoping to do it this year, more collaboration and partnership in our teams. So, thank you. And it was a wonderful event. Looking forward for similar in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's just put on our cameras for the pictures now, please. Akimbo, I can't see your face. It's showing
my
something.
My camera is acting up. The guy does not want me to show my new Abeti Aja.
Okay. Priscilla, I see you. Let's take those pictures. Priscilla.
Madam Priscilla.
Yeah. Chinwe, where are you? Magaji, Olawumi, your pictures. Joseph Itoje, Simon Kolo, Joseph, please, your pictures. Let's see your camera so we can just take pictures. And just smile for the camera. Okay, 1 second, and it is a wrap. Wait, let me take one more, please. Just hold on 1 second. One more. Yep. Thank you very much. Priscilla, it's good to see your face. This is the first time I'm seeing you this year. All right. And yeah, good to see everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Mojirayo, your camera is just doing blah, 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 blue.
I'm happy that was after you took the picture.